Hi, I'm Tim, and I'm a campus pastor at Life.Church. And Pastor Craig's talking to us about how do we last in ministry. One specific way that we last in ministry is we bet on the church. We bet on the local church, and we back it up with faith. So when was a time in the past that you bet on the church? Maybe it was you were just starting out into ministry and you left a successful career and people said, "Are you crazy?" Maybe you picked up your family and you moved to a new city because you were betting on the local church and you were backing it up in faith. I can remember one of those times for me and my family. It was a few years ago. I was pastoring an established Life.Church location. You could say that it was a safe place to be. We were growing, we were financially stable, we had a building, everything was going well. So you can imagine my surprise when they said, "Tim, would you and your family consider moving to a new city where there's not a Life.Church already existing to start a Life.Church?" It seems so uncertain. How many people would be there? Would it be financially stable? Would we ever be able to have a building? As my wife and I prayed about it, we realized that God was calling us to bet on the local church, which is the hope of the world. And so we took that step of faith and said, we'll step from where? From safety into uncertainty. So you've thought of a time in the past that you have bet on the local church. But what about now? What is the risk or the bet that God is calling you to take? Maybe it's to step out into that uncertainty. What is that risk for you? Maybe it's starting a new ministry. Maybe it's just to keep going because you're in the midst of COVID or you're just coming out of COVID and you're going, where are our people? Are we going to be able to continue? Are we going to be able to afford to continue? And to bet on the local church, to step out into faith is just to keep going. Maybe it's to find that young leader that you believe God has put potential in and developing them and drawing that out of them. You've taken the step in the past to bet on the local church. But what is the step that God is calling you to take now? I love Matthew chapter 16, where Jesus talks about the church, and he's talking to Peter, who he names. And he said, "You will be called Peter," which means rock. "And on this rock I will build my church. And even of the gates of hell will not prevail against it." I love that. Why? Because who's the builder of the church? Not us, not Peter. It's Jesus. Jesus says, "I will build my church." When we bet on the church, we're betting on Jesus. And when we take that step of faith, we're trusting him. How do we last in ministry? We bet on the local church and we back it up with faith.